This is somebody's $40 billion investment. When I put £10 in crypto and it crashes, my whole heart is shaking. I'm shaking like small Jen. And yet Elon Musk is here playing with a $40 billion investment. God, I beg. Remember when we were like, before COVID started, and like there was like, ooh, virus, and then at some point the government, or like the government, it was a government, right? They then decided to say like officially like we're now in a pandemic. I mean, I guess by definition, by the time the virus has spread worldwide, then it became a pandemic. Fun fact, I did not know the definition of the word pandemic before COVID, but I said all this to say that when we were in a pandemic, or when we were experiencing a pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, I was like, okay, yes, we're all at home, people are getting sick, people are dying, this is happening, this is very, very real. Whereas I feel like with a recession, I don't really know like what's going on. Like I don't really know when are we gonna officially be in a recession. I think they're saying that we're in a recession right now, but then sometimes when they say that, it's like, are you joking? Or like, is this like, how do you know that like you're living in a recession? So yesterday, I'm gonna complain, this is a little rant. I went to Sainsbury's, right? Walked into Sainsbury's feeling fancy. Do you know what? I used to hate the shop Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's is like a grocery shopping place, supermarket basically. In the UK, if you don't live here. I went to Sainsbury's and I used to hate Sainsbury's, and I used to think, oh my god, this place is so dead. But best believe, if you have a big Sainsbury's, not like the little corner ones, but like a very, very big Sainsbury's, not gonna lie, it's really nice. Like they have like really, really like fancy stuff, not fancy stuff, but like just like things that are like just different. Anyway, so, and Tesco feels very basic in comparison to Sainsbury's these days. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but Sainsbury's nowadays feels like a very fancy supermarket. Like I went yesterday, I got like this Hawaiian cream cheese thing, donut ring something, and I got like my dumplings. I normally like buying dumplings by the brand called Itsu. I think Japanese word for dumplings is gyoza. Don't quote me on this, but I think it is. But anyway, I got my dumplings, and why did I pick up from the shelf and it said £4? I was like, excuse me, sorry, what is going on here? Like the price used to be like £3 something. I want to say like £3.20, £3.25, and then I used to feel still like quite like, okay, it's not cheap, because it's like just about a meal, I would say. Like it doesn't even fill me up, to be honest. Whenever I have it, I need to have it. It has like 12 dumplings inside, I think, and whenever I have it, I need to have like something else on the side. But anyway, it was like £4, and I'm like, I swear this year, in 2022, I bought that thing for less than, for like more closer to like £3, and now it was £4. I'm like, are these the effects of the recession? I don't know, like it's really weird. I think it would be really good to have like a good indication or like markers to know like, okay, like now we're like officially in a recession, and so everybody and your mom needs to get ready because things are gonna get hard. Whereas I feel like things are like creepily, slowly being hard, so then you're not quite sure. It's very weird. I don't really like it. But anyway, I went to see Black Panther on Monday. Today's Sunday. I went to see Black Panther on Monday, and oh my god, I love that movie so much. I really like the first one. I was one of the people that saw the first one 3 times. Yes, thank you very much. Don't judge me, okay? I saw it 3 times. I think, was it twice or 3 times? I definitely saw it at least twice, because any person that I see and I'm like, you haven't seen Black Panther? Okay, we're going to see Black Panther. Thank you very much. We're going. I'm very much like a big supporter of like, listen, I be supporting my peoples. I'm just like, I'm here for it, okay? Even The Woman King, I was very intentional about like going to see that movie in the cinema. When I was in Scotland 2 weeks ago, I think it was, yeah, I was in Scotland, and I was just like, I don't know, it seems like everything else that I had planned wasn't working out, but I was like, this Woman King, I'm going to go and see that movie, and I went to see it, and it was amazing. But Black Panther, oh my god, I loved it so much. I think that more and more I'm seeing like I don't even know how to say, like the characters in like Marvel, like the storyline in Marvel movies. The storyline is really fantastic, but I think sometimes there's a bit of a, not something missing, but there's a way that the story is told, and I think there's a lot more emphasis on like the action and the the style of the movie anyway, rather than the actual like words, if you get what I mean. So like I get the story, but then I wish there was more that was said, and I wish there was more like actual like verbal conversation, like prolonged conversation. I think so. I think the longest conversation that I remember being had was the one with what's it called again, the queen mother and her daughter Shuri, and then there was one with the Mayan waterman the waterman and Shuri herself. Is that a spoiler? I don't think that's a spoiler. Okay, so yeah, I think those were the longest dialogues that we had in the movie. I could be wrong, but I felt like I needed more talking. But apart from that, like, the movie was really, really good. I was here for like the Mayan representation. It was so funny, like, because I was looking at him like, he looks Asian, like, is this, because obviously they don't put out spoilers, so you don't really know what you're going to see anyway. But I was like, he looks Asian. I genuinely thought he was Asian, but then when I realized that he was Mayan, so it's like I was gonna say the originals, that's a movie. They're the native Mexicans, don't quote me on things. But I think they're like a native, I don't want to say tribe, because more and more whenever I say the word tribe, it feels a bit like it belittles like the essence of like a group of people to like, I don't know, I'm not gonna say tribe, but like Mayas, like, anyway, go and Google the word like Mayans. Anyway, which I probably need to do myself. But I really, 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 really love that whole like collaboration happened. I watched this video where the main guy, the waterman, he was so disgusted. He was doing a video talking about like the lack of like diversity in a lot of like Hispanic movies, Hispanic TV, like Mexico, I guess that part of the world in general. I saw a whole conversation about, you know, don't call like Mayans Hispanic. Guys, don't judge me, I'm not very aware of this part of things, but I really love representation. So yeah, that video that I watched, the waterman was he was complaining basically about that, the lack of diversity in yeah, I grew up watching a lot of telenovelas, and I never thought in my entire life that like someone from, you know, that part of the world could look like him. You know, I think there's been a lot more like what's the word now, what's the English, more conversation, more awareness about the fact that people that are like Latinas, Latinos, Latinx people, they're very mixed, and they all have like, they come in different colors, you know. In my mind, someone who was Latina was definitely like Jennifer Lopez and nothing darker than that. Yeah, it was very interesting. And he was saying, there was something that he said which was really funny. He said that if you watch like a lot of the movies that they show like in Mexico, that he said it looks like a Scandinavian country.
It's important for many people, especially kids in Latin America. They feel represented to give this background to name more Mesoamerican culture, especially Mayan culture. They nail it. In Latin America, especially Mexico, we have a lack of representation. If you turn off the TV, for example, or you go out and see the publicity on the street, all the people is white. Mexico looks in the TV like a Scandinavian country, honestly.
I died. But yeah, that was funny. But I love the representation. I find it interesting. Again, don't drag me for this, but I feel like, is it just me, or there's a lot of like more and more video, like I don't even know how to say what I want to say, but sometimes it just feels like a lot of these countries need to work so much on their diversity, because sometimes it's the black like movies, music that tend to even have a bit more like diverse in terms of skin tones, characters from like these parts of the world. Again, there might not be too much of that, I could be wrong, but I remember even, especially like the big things, right, like Black Panther and this whole the Mayan side of the story as well. But then we also saw that like with Beyonce's brown skin girl, anyway, that song. And they had like some South Asian representation, because there's a lot of dark-skinned people in South Asia. But for some reason, I grew up again watching a lot of Bollywood movies. I would say it wasn't too bad at some point. It was getting better, but still, I think there would probably be a bit more men that I saw that were a little bit more darker. But the women, there was barely any dark-skinned women in Bollywood movies that I watched, and I watched a lot. I thought that everybody looks like, I can't say her name right, but Ashwa Rai. and if it was not Ashwarai, then that was it. I think the closest that I ever saw to, I can't remember her name now, but anyway, there's basically a big problem with like diversity, especially in terms of skin tone in these countries. And I love that when you're looking at like movies and TV and entertainment industry that like predominantly black, I love that they're also trying to like support and elevate and like raise the profile of these people, like although they're from different communities. That might not make sense, but it made sense in my head. It was so funny to me when they were telling the story, the Mayan story, and obviously the guy went to where his mom was from. This again hopefully isn't a spoiler, but he went to where his mom was from, which is obviously Mexico, and colonizers were doing the one thing they're known for. They were colonizing, and I just like, everywhere you go, it's like MTN. They are colonizing everywhere. Like, I'm like, oh my god. So I love the fact that even they also show that that is also like the case for countries that are non-African as well. So obviously like in Mexico. So I love that. It's again a different language, colonizer that speaks a different language, also still colonizer. I feel like a lot of Latin, a lot like Spain, Portugal, they don't really get as much smoke as like England and probably like France. France actually doesn't even get half the smoke for the kind of carnage, atrocities and things that they did in different parts of the world. But I definitely know that Spain, they don't get as much slack for that. And I think that that might be because there was a lot more integration of Spanish people in where they colonized. This is my feeling. So yeah, there's a lot more Spanish people who are now inhabiting the places that they colonized. Whereas if you look at, say for example, Nigeria, there's a lot of British people, like Ghana. If you look at like English speaking countries that were colonized by Britain, Britain or British people did not really live and inhabit in those places and mix in the way that you would say might be the case for like Latin, like places that were colonized by like Spain or like Brazil, for example, Portugal. So yeah, I just found that to be like quite interesting in general. But I love that they showed that side of it, is that it's not only just African countries that were being colonized. There was a lot of other countries, you know, that were also, yeah, being colonized. So I thought that was quite nice. The last thing that I'm going to say on Black Panther is, oh my god, of course, I'm an engineer, and I loved with a bit of a comma, you know, just a small apostrophe by the side. There's a little bit of like a lot of STEM. It was quite focused on like STEM, like science, and she being like not a scientist, but she was a lab babe. She was always in her lab, which I loved. I loved that bit. But then I kind of felt like the science was not sciencing to some extent. Like I remember when she and this other American girl that was there, they kind of like mentioned like a scientific word, and they kind of like, ooh, but then the word was diffusion, and I was like, come on guys, you have to do better than that. Diffusion is like secondary school level science. Like come on, you can do a bit better than that. But I got really excited after that when they talked about evaporation, which is like a, it's like a, would I even call it like a diffusion process? Anyway, but evaporation, I got really excited about that because I remember in my, I want to say like 3rd year of uni, I did something that was related to evaporation. I think it was like separation of isopropyl alcohol and water, IPA and water, I think so. I'm not sure if it's IPA and water, IPA and another solvent. Because, sorry, this is very sciencey, because they form, oh god, what is it called again? The word has left my mind. But basically they form like a mixture that cannot be separated anymore by distillation, which is normally what you would use. So one of the different options of actually separating the IPA and water mixture was to use evaporation. It's like a, anyway, that was one of the things that I was looking at in my 3rd year. So when I heard the word evaporation in Black Panther and relating to like the way that they wanted to fight this water guy and to talk about like the way his skin, I think his skin was what was taking in like oxygen. Again, I probably need to watch the movie again to really take that all in. But yeah, I found that so interesting, and I was like, oh my god. Yeah, so, and I really love the science representation for young people. I really hope that it does something. I don't know if it will, but I think that that's nice. I would have wanted it to be a little bit more technical, not too much, but just a bit more technical. Like they didn't really explain what she was doing. There wasn't, again, evaporation and diffusion are the only 2 words that I really heard them say, but she was doing a lot of work, even in terms of like creating the herb that she then, oh, spoiler, But she was trying to create a potion, but again, she was altering DNAs to do that, or part of a DNA. I can't remember whose DNA was that. T'Challa's DNA? I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot of scientific work that was going on in that movie, and I really wish that they sort of explored and like showcased that a little bit more, rather than just saying, oh, Shuri is a scientist that is always in her lab. That was that. It was a really good movie. Was there anything else? I love the fighting scenes. Like, it was giving Bas Bus. I loved it so much, like, especially towards the end. The fighting was, as in, one person, they basically said one person go one person. Like, it was given. It was really good. I watched it in, again, a town that's nearby to me, and the demographic of people who were watching the movie, they're not the demographic of people that when you watch a movie, listen, I know for a fact that if I was watching that movie in some certain spaces, or even say somewhere like Nigeria, for example, I know that the comedic effects would have been given. Like, it was just very silent. Like, the movie was silent the entire time. There was no, like, again, obviously it's a cinema, you shouldn't be talking while watching a movie, but I feel like if you know that sometimes you go to cinema where people just have the certain comedic effects at the right time that's not disrupting the movie, that just makes that sort of experience of watching a movie like Black Panther with a lot of people like even more special. So I kind of missed that, and I think if I watch it again, I want to watch it in that sort of context, because I think that would be really nice. Yeah, I think that was it, to be honest, about Black Panther. I think everybody should watch it. Again, I'm here for supporting. In the words of Issa Rae, I'm supporting everybody black.
Who are you rooting for tonight?
I'm rooting for everybody black. I am betting on black tonight.
I thought it was great. Okay, I thought it was really great. So yes, the movie was really colorful. There was a lot of the fashion was fashioning. Like, it was just it was beautiful in that sense. I think I want to watch it again for the second time, just to take a lot more things in. Yeah, anyway, it was really good. Another thing that I want to talk about is a friendly guy from the southern part of Africa. I always forget that Elon Musk is South African. I mean, he doesn't really, I'm not gonna say that, okay. So yeah, our friendly African brother has been investing. He has been doing some investments, and this time around, was it 40 billion or was it 44 billion? I can't remember. But listen, I mean, anyway, there's been a lot of like conversation around like Twitter and like Elon Musk buying Twitter and all of that stuff. I think it all started with, okay, Elon Musk, like, is it just me, or like it felt like the whole trade thing went very quiet for some time, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, Elon Musk has bought Twitter, ship is going down, like, what's going on? I felt like it got very quiet. Like, initially when there was that conversation that, oh, he was going to buy Twitter, it was like lots of conversation, right? And then after that, like, it kind of like, ooh, slowly went quiet, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, the madman has actually done the thing. I have a lot of like thoughts about like the whole thing. My very first thing is like, I think the real villains in this story, especially when we're thinking of the fact that lots of people, like Twitter employees, got laid off. I think the real villains are like the owners of, like, the people who allowed that sale to happen. I'm not sure, because I think Jack stepped down as CEO. Would it have been Jack? I don't know. But they're the real villains. And the other guy, the other CEO, is he still the CEO? There's an Indian guy that was Indian heritage. That was the CEO of Twitter, right? I can't remember his name, but like, whoever were the top heads, the authorities, people in authority that allowed for that sale to happen, knowing fully well who Elon Musk is and what he was saying that he was going to do with Twitter, they're the real villains. Because there was this whole thing on Twitter about like, oh, like people who were being laid off, and there was a lot of like empathy towards them, which I think is the right thing to do. But again, all of that was more targeted towards the fact that, oh, Elon Musk is like, you know, laying off people. Who saw the company? Who? It's like, you know, when sometimes like all these CEOs, when they have to lay off people, they come onto LinkedIn and start crying and doing, oh my god, I'm so sorry that I have to do this. But like, come on, like, whoever like is the top person or people in authority that allowed for that to happen, knowing fully well what could have happened, they're the real people that should be held accountable. They're the real and true villains of this entire story. I want to say as well, like, I know that Elon Musk has been getting a lot of slack, and perhaps rightfully so, okay, but I kind of like, I don't want to say respect, but like respect is not the wrong word. I'm looking for, okay, we're gonna say respect, but like I appreciate like the openness of like the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of these things happen behind closed doors. Like, you know, there's been a lot of companies layoffs and all these things, and nobody really knows why people are being laid off. There's not a lot of transparency on what is going on, what the company's trying to do. So I kind of like that Elon Musk has been open about that. Again, he presents himself as some sort of like egomaniac. I might be a bit mad, but like, I don't know, I really appreciated like the openness of the whole thing. I like that he is showing us what he's trying to do. A lot of terrible ideas, you know, a lot of terrible ideas. But still, I appreciate that he's showing and he's sharing. Some of them is just like, oh my god, like, what is he even doing? But do you know the funny thing? As much as I appreciate that, at the same time, I'm like, this is somebody's $40 billion investment. This is somebody's $40 billion investment. When I put £10 in crypto and it crashes, my whole heart is shaking. I'm shaking like small Jen. And yet Elon Musk is here playing with a $40 billion investment. God, I beg. How? That confidence. Everybody needs just small portion. Take 1 milliliter of that confidence. He needs to be sharing it and selling it in the market, because wow. Wow, $40 billion. Ooh, like, you would think that having made such an investment that he would be very careful and like very methodical, but I mean, that's not Elon Musk, is it? But he would be very, like, you know, tactical about what he's doing. He don't even care. He don't care. He has never cared. He does the same thing with Tesla, right? Like, just randomly tweeting about, I mean, there's a whole thing about him tweeting about Dogecoin and like whatever, and then he say something about Dogecoin and then the price goes up, and then he says another thing and it crashes. So he's just a bit of a madman like that. I know that, again, we live in a world where, and I struggle with this sometimes, like, we all want everyone to think like us and act like us, but I think I appreciate the fact that he's very different. He thinks out loud, stupidly but differently, but still loudly, and allows people to see that process of that madness, if you get what I mean. So I kind of appreciate that. What else was I going to say? The last thing that I want to talk about is Rishi Sunak. Rishi. Do you get what? I know that when Rishi became Prime Minister, there was a lot of conversation about him being of Indian heritage. Is it Indian or Pakistani heritage? I think it's Indian. It's Indian heritage, right? And I don't like that was being had in like a negative way. Okay, I'm just gonna say, I'm not like what's the thing again, Tory conservative supporter. I don't really care like that for them. I probably would never vote anyone in that party. I mean, let's see where life takes us, right? They might want to have someone who is not clownery, because the last person that they had as an option was a bit of a clown. So I don't care for the Conservative Party in that way. I probably never will, but I personally think it's a good, not a good thing, but I think it's a big thing that Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I think that is such a big thing. Again, there's a lot of people saying, oh, like, why are you celebrating that he's the Prime Minister when obviously he's from a Conservative Party, and the Conservative Party being who they are. I would say, like, the Conservative Party is like the APC of Nigeria. I think I can make that claim. Can I make that claim? I probably can. I think I can, actually. So a lot of people are saying, yeah, of course, like, you shouldn't celebrate him because he's in the Conservative Party and he's no different to all the other, because he's from a different, like, a minority ethnic background, doesn't mean he's any different from like from the other people. I said, yes, exactly, that's why he should be there. I feel like it's very, somehow, should I say, for us to always expect the people from a minority ethnic background to be the nice people. Why do you expect that? Why do we expect a certain level of more humanity from people of lower ethnic backgrounds and not the same of like their white counterparts. Why do we do that? Everybody should be nice. Everybody should be making good decisions for the government, for the country. And why do we only, do you know what I mean? They did the same thing with like Obama, and it's like sometimes people say, oh, Obama like first black president and everything, and then people are like, oh yeah, but he was still like obviously the US gets involved in a lot of yeah, a lot of stuff, and they were saying how like he's not very different, and I'm like, yeah, but why do you expect him to be different? Why he's an American president? Why do you want him to be different? If you want him to be different, you should be also, whatever level of kindness, humanity, sense, or whatever, or niceness, or like looking after the whatever community that you should be expecting from me, you should also be expecting that from the white counterparts. And I don't think that's never really made sense to me. So as much as people try to make the whole Rishi thing seem like, oh, like we shouldn't be celebrating him because he's in the Conservative Party, I say, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm not supporting him because he's of his policies. I'm not supporting him because of the Conservative Party. I'm just happy that we have somebody for the first time in the history of this country that isn't white or white appearing, that is the president, not the president, the prime minister of the country. I think that's a big deal. I was speaking to someone who was from, I think it's Bangladesh, at work, and he was saying, yeah, like, I mean, he doesn't feel like anything because it's the Tory party. Like, do you get what I mean? It is the Conservative. It's not going to be any different. I said, yeah, but that shouldn't be the point. Maybe I just think differently. I don't know. But I think that shouldn't be the point. I think, yes, they're going to be there. They've been creating or generating a lot of terrible leaders, but I'm glad that one of them gets to not be from a certain background. I think it's something, I think it's a big deal. I was wondering why everyone was kind of like, not really, yeah, not really wanting to celebrate him in that way. I love it. And you know, it gives something for racist people to be racist about, so that always makes me excited, because yeah, you know, something else to complain about. This time around, if it's going so bad, then we can blame Rishi, right? Because it hasn't been a shitstorm the entire time. So yeah, I'm low-key proud of him. I think people of Asian backgrounds should be proud of him. I mean, if they want to. If they don't want to, then that's fine, I guess. But yeah, hopefully we can have more people from different like ethnic minority backgrounds, and hopefully enough in there that we'll start to have some that are actually doing good things and like making a difference. So yeah, I think that's great. And even on that same note, to be honest, like there hasn't been, I remember when Theresa May became the prime minister, and I thought, like, why is nobody saying anything that she's a woman? Like, we have I think she was the second ever female prime minister. Mind you, the one before her was deeply questionable in a lot of ways. But like, I guess maybe in the same way, I don't know if it's right or even fair on Rishi's part to compare him to Margaret Thatcher. But I think in the same way, like, okay, if I think of Margaret Thatcher knowing all that she did now, do I still think it's a good thing that we had a female prime minister? I don't know, I would say yes, maybe. Like, I think eventually you have enough that there will be some good women that are in there and doing really great things. And there are women that are doing great things in politics, I guess in different levels. I don't really know them, but because I don't really follow like the UK politics like that. But I'm sure they exist. And I just always don't want to be that person that is expecting a female prime minister to be nice and be good, whatever that means to you, because she's a woman. Do you know what I mean? So Margaret Thatcher was very questionable. I don't really know that much about her policies, but the things that I've heard were very, 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 very questionable. So yeah, but I don't know. I think that Theresa May after that also very interesting. And then we had 10-Minute Liz. Again, I don't really know much about her. She seemed to be quite more left leaning when, like, from the videos that I saw of her like in, I think it was in uni actually, when she was a lot younger. So but it's quite interesting that she is a member of the Conservative Party. I don't know, it's quite interesting. Anyway, I find the whole concept of like left and right as a way of like putting people in politics to be very interesting. Like there should be a lot more different schools of thoughts rather than right and left. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, that is it. Shout out to Rishi Sunak. Shout out to Black Panther. Shout out to, what else did I talk about in this again? I can't remember. Shout out to all of them. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. I still have my jumper that says say no to doing things that I love. Today is the World Cup is starting. So I even want to talk about the World Cup. I don't even know. Maybe I'll do this video in December and talk about the World Cup. But the World Cup is starting today, and I'm going to go and watch the first game. There's been a lot of conversation about Qatar and the World Cup and them there. I don't know. I find the conversations to be very, very interesting because they come from a certain peoples. People are complaining that the country does not sell alcohol, so unfortunately they cannot be pissed and black-faced drunk in the middle of the day in a country. And I'm like, well, that is your own problem. If you cannot find anything else internally to give you joy other than alcohol, sounds like that's your problem, not theirs. Obviously, like, people are not very happy that it's Qatar. I think that the way that they got the World Cup thing was a bit questionable. I don't know. I can't say. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Maybe this is improving. I haven't done that research in that way, but I know that there was a bit of a question about that. But yeah, I don't really like what people have been saying about it. I really wanted to go to Qatar to watch the game, but I have a Nigerian passport. So yeah, it's always awkward. But yeah, do I even want to talk about that? I don't know. I just know that I don't like what people have been saying about it in that way. They've been very one-sided. So yeah, I don't know. I'm happy for Qatar that they're getting the opportunity to do this. I think every single time that they do the World Cup, there's always something, right? Because even I remember when they did the World Cup in Brazil, like, people were complaining how much the government was spending in like getting the country and the stadiums and everything ready for the World Cup, whereas day in, day out, before and after the World Cup, there are people who are literally in deplorable conditions and live in environments. So why are they spending all this money to get the country ready for the World Cup when they're not looking or willing to invest any of this in the people that live there? They talk about like discrimination and like Qatar being discriminatory, especially towards the LGBTQ plus community. I'm like, okay, that's fair enough, but why are you also not playing the same emphasis on all the other countries that you're going to do the World Cup in? Like, if you're going to play that politics, then who gets to determine what policies that a country should have had or should have in place before it gets not vote to host the World Cup? Like, if we're gonna play that game, let's be fair and do it for everybody. Like, let's look at the policies of every single country that we're gonna say they're gonna be allowed to host the World Cup, and we need to look at them critically in that same lens. And I'm sure that if you do, you probably wouldn't really find a lot of countries that would be worthy of hosting the World Cup. So yeah, it's quite funny that they're bringing that up, which is, I think, is a valid concern, but I think we need to be fair. And around all the countries, and every single time we get a World Cup country or country to host the World Cup, is that also in the part of the things that are in the ballots of that we're taking off? This is what the country should be doing, or these are the kind of policies that they should have before we can allow them to host. So if you're not doing that for every other country, I don't know why they're doing it for Qatar. Do you know what I mean? I understand why people obviously feel that way, and why there's a lot of like conversation about that. But I think, yeah, we probably should also be fair and make sure that if we're going to be raising eyebrows to Qatar, we should be doing that to all the other countries that are going to be hosting. So yes, that is my take on the entire thing. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I shall see you somewhere in this space sometime soon. I shall see you. I think my phone is ringing. Is my phone ringing? Somewhere in this space sometime soon.